Hello, I'm Lee Gravely, and this is Cindy Hodo. Is a good friend of ours. And Cindy has started her foundation called A Good Turn in Honor, good, ah, for a good turn in honor of her son. But also, I just joined her podcast, so she's joining ours. And so her mother apparently has passed away from cancer. And so, Cindy, you want to talk about that for a second or two? So, when was she diagnosed, and how old were you? And
My mom was diagnosed with carcinoid tumors in her intestines, and that she passed away at age 63. So that was about 28 years ago.
oh, wow.
Yes. Um, we found Pete and I, my husband now, we were engaged at the time, and mom wasn't feeling good, like all during the wedding stuff going on. She had her gallbladder removed. That something was wrong, and they just kept removing things like the gallbladder. And then later, they found out that she did have these carcinoid tumors in her body. And it's a slow growing tumors from your outside environment. It could be from toxins from the air you breathe, the water you drink, the food you eat, the city in which you live. It can be all kinds of things, how these toxins get into your body. So that was explained to us once they knew what it was. And she was at MD Anderson in Florida, in Jacksonville. My parents had relocated to the Orlando area. So they were blessed to have that nearby.
Did they move to Orlando because of that?
No, my dad's job took
Oh,
me
okay.
there.
I
Yeah.
gotcha. All right. So what was it like? What were you feeling? How, you know, during at that time?
I didn't
Just
really quite know what to feel. I did not know I was not educated on cancer. Cancer was kind of, in my opinion, a new thing. At the time, I lived in Mobile, so it wasn't like I was seeing my mom very often. I was young into my career and a working girl and all of that kind of thing. So I would just kind of know when we saw her, and then when they came to the wedding, you know, she acted like she felt good, but she probably didn't feel
right.
good. And then they found out later that she had the tumors, the slow growing. They said they could have been growing in her for 15 years.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay.
So mom wound up doing some treatments through MD Anderson, and she did some chemotherapy, whole 9 yards, lost her hair and everything. And then the only other choice or option was to actually go in and cut out pieces of her intestine and remove those tumors. So it was very grueling, hard on mom's body. My dad retired early to care for my mom.
Yeah. So was she on chemo and what other? I get. Did they try like radiation?
Radiation was not an option.
Mm,
Yeah, and you gotta recall this is a long time ago. So radiation was not an option, and I probably because of where in your
yeah.
intestinal area, there's only so much you can do. So that was what really got me wondering when I was able to meet one of her doctors. I asked him, I said, "Is this hereditary?" And that's when we learned as a family, or when I learned that it was not hereditary. This was something caused from outside toxins. And that just really sparked an interest. And mom was still alive, of course, at that time. She fought. She's lived with it for 5 years. And then finally she just said, I'm done. No more cutting on me.
Yeah.
I've lived a good life. It's time to move on. And so we lost my mom. And I think Sierra, our daughter, who's now 34, was age 6 years old. So learning about the fact that it was not hereditary is really not much you could test for to find out if you have this kind of thing. I actually found out mom had it through, amazingly, a urine test,
Oh, wow.
not a blood test,
Right.
not scan. So that was very interesting to learn. Um, so I was like, okay, what killed mom then?
Right.
Because my husband was like, "Yay, we're not going to get mom's cancer." And I'm like, "What killed mom?" Because I love like investigating and all that kind of thing. So I just started kind of researching. We did not even have the internet yet
Right.
If it was there, I didn't have it. I remember my first home computer was the old blue MacBook.
Yeah.
Like we fly in a spaceship with it or whatever. But I actually just found a book, and we talk about things presenting themselves at the right time in our lives. And this book presented itself right in front of my face in Walmart, the little circular rack that has like a few little spiritual books on it. And it was weird because it was a medical book,
Mm-hmm.
and it was about toxicities in the body. And the doctor was an MD from Tupelo, Mississippi, who now practices in the exact same town my parents lived in. And at the time, we had no idea that that's where he had relocated.
Yeah.
So interesting. So that really got me interested in just, well, how can I heal myself? I had been a sick child. I was the kid with the Kleenexes and the asthma inhaler, and I had asthma, all kinds of allergies. Took allergy shots for years. Wound up detoxing myself off of those, not even knowing what that was called. But I was just tired of being sick.
Right.
And I thought, well, the shots aren't helping, so I'm going to quit taking them, because by then I was in college. I'm having to go get a friend's mom who's a nurse give me these shots, and I'm still sick as a sick. And you've heard, you're just sick. You're tired of being sick and tired. I was tired of it. And that's when I was in college before mom became sick.
Mm-hmm.
So I did do a little bit of my own patient advocacy with myself, self-advocating even back then, because I knew there's got to be a better way. I just didn't know what a better way looked like.
Right.
Then I found the book, and that really helped me. It talked a lot about food combining. And so I just started really paying attention to foods I ate. And then that kind of moved me into a healing journey. I wound up trying a elimination diet, like a gluten-free eating plan. And then after the 30 days, I started adding back slowly, one food category at a time. And it was all inflammatory foods, sugar, grains and wheats and things like that, and dairy. Those are the main three things that we just kind of cut out. You could have sugars, but they needed to be low glycemic. And then as I was adding them back, I started learning which categories were triggering me, and then I could narrow down specifically within that category what messed with me. And then so no more asthma, no more inhalers, no more Kleenexes. It changed my life.
Absolutely. And so I guess that led you into your wellness coaching.
It did. I had a few friends who were looking into that. We were, and so a lot of us still are today, representatives with a company that is like a gluten-free, vegan, kosher company. And it's so good. We're all still with the company, but some of them started doing like life coaching and things like that. And I said, that sounds interesting. I owned an ad agency at the time. I owned it for over 25 years, but I knew I wanted to, my goal always, even when I started it with my partner, was to scale back and consult or whatever, go part-time once I hit the age of 50.
Right.
And that was approaching. And so I've started just emailing some of these folks that I knew. What type of program did you go through? I'm feeling led, like in my second season of life, to really help people other than just through this company, maybe through my own company, and change the way my company looks. So that's what happened. I researched, I found Duke Integrative Medicine and went through their program. So it's now called Duke Integrative Wellbeing Coaching. At the time, mine is, I'm a certified professional Duke Integrative Health and Wellness Coach. But now they just call it well-being. They pumped it all together because it is about life. It's not just about nutrition or physical fitness. It's also about your environment.
Oh, sure.
And environment really surprised me because I didn't realize, I knew like my car was an environment and I needed to keep it kind of tidy and all that kind of thing. But so environments can stress people out just if it's a mess or whatever. And then you have your environment from pollution and things. So there are a lot of different ways of environment, but also your spirituality.
Oh, that's huge. Yes.
And your communications, your relationships. And when I found it, all I saw about Duke was it was a mind, body, spirit program. And I I looked at it that day. Well, the day I finally looked at it was 3 years later after I emailed my friends.
Yeah.
Because our late son Thomas had passed away suddenly, and he was a traumatic brain injury survivor. So I was also his caregiver, and he was homeschooler. I was terrible homeschool mom, but anyway, because we like to have fun more than we like to learn. So Thomas had a second car accident, which did end his life the day after 2 days after he graduated from high school, and it was right in front of our neighborhood, and we were neighbors at the time. So I went into this grieving mourning period, right?
Okay.
And I do like to call it healthy grieving. My husband and I grieve differently, but we made a promise to each other we would not let our son's death divide us. And so about 3 years after Thomas passed, one day I was just out back and I just felt like I got my brain back. That fog, I'd heard of the fog of grief, but I didn't realize I had been in it for 3 years, but I had. I was highly functioning, acting like everything was fine, but it wasn't. Then the fog lifted and I felt like I got myself back, my brain, my spirit. And that day, the something inside of me, which I would refer to as the Holy Spirit, intuition, God, said, remember that coaching thing you were looking into? Look into it again.
Mhm.
So I pulled up those emails. I had not ever had even opened them because I'd emailed them that week that he was graduating, because I'm like, yay, I can move on to something new.
Sure.
So 3 years later, I opened the email, found out about Duke, and went through their training, and loved every bit of it. So that's how I got into the wellness coaching. And this Quest Wellness Coaching is my website. And I just love helping people make lifestyle changes. It's about lifestyle. Um, some people start with thinking they want to go one way, and then they wind up diverting and going somewhere else because, well, that's done and this has happened in my life, and now I want to do this.
Mhm.
And it's super fun. So sometimes it's just a one meeting session, and other times, we go for 3 months to on and on, just
Right.
depending on how often someone wants to be coached.
Yeah. Well, that's
So
exciting.
I just
Sort
I
of
just love
same
it.
thing with personal training.
Yeah, very similar to personal training.
Yeah.
It's and as y'all know, coaching has really moved more into society now than it was. So that was 2018 is when I completed Duke, and then 2019 with the national board certification.
Mhm.
And I just have decided to no longer be national board certified because I really don't need it anymore. But that was an interesting process, sitting for the boards and doing all
Right.
the CREs and all of that. But
Yeah.
I think for me, people know the Duke program, and because it is integrative. So you do work in the medical world and in the holistic world, and they marry together beautifully.
Excellent. That's fantastic. And then also sort of stemming from another way of making a tragedy into something really good is that you and Pete, your husband, started a foundation, and it's called For a Good Turn in honor of Thomas.
Yes.
And so, yeah, want to speak on that a little
Yes,
bit? We've been to a couple events and things.
Events.
We had a ball at.
It's foragoodturn.org, and we are a nonprofit. Thomas was the kind of young man, and even as a kid, he just liked helping people. He lived life at high paces. Once he started walking, he was like the Tasmanian devil. Just we're like, oh my gosh, is he ever going to stop? And he rarely did. So, but one of the things he loved to do is just help random people, strangers, whatever. When we moved to Birmingham, he was helping somebody who lived under one of the bridges. And you know what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
a homeless person. And he once said, just because they're homeless doesn't mean they're not smart and that they want to have a good life.
Yeah.
And that just stuck with me so much. And that was shortly before he died. Thomas told me that. Back in 24, we started the foundation. It took us a while to figure out what we wanted to do. And we just realized that people do want to know where their money's going, and if they can impact and see an impact on somebody with their donations, that is very meaningful. And that's when we decided to form the foundation. So it's acts of kindness. What we do is we learn from our community of someone in need, and it's typically a one-time gift, and we learn it through our community. So that's how people are vetted.
Mhm.
And then if the board votes, and our daughter is involved as well, Sierra,
Great.
with the
Yeah.
foundation. And so it's small things, sometimes it's little things, sometimes it's big things. We helped a young man who was starting a business that we met, and we just loved it. It was an apparel business. It was all positive, words of affirmations and words from the Bible, because his mom had been going through a hard time. Well, we met him and we learned he didn't have an LLC, but he was selling his stuff all over the place. And we're like, okay, we think we may have found our first person.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is he was around the same age as Thomas would have been. And he also had a head trauma playing basketball. And I was like, this guy has no idea that he's about to be our first recipient. So we were able to gift him with setting up the LLC and trademarking his logo,
Mhm.
which was important. And now this young man, Reggie Mann is his name, has NBA players wearing his apparel.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And it's just amazing. So it's things like that, whether it's through a business mentorship or maybe helping a single mom who needs, it could be a new set of tires or something.
Mhm.
So it's been fun. And the foundation, we are not out in public really asking for money. We just, as people meet us and want to know our story, we share it with them. And if it moves them, they want to give to the foundation, that's great.
Mhm.
And that's how we operate. We try to kind of operate a little bit like Thomas,
Right. Yeah.
off the grid, and kind of floating around. And as we meet people and those connections are made, that's how we make those connections.
Okay. If for people that are watching this video and they want to donate, how can they do that?
They can go to the website. It
Okay.
is foragoodturn.org, and it's all spelled out. And so, Good Turn, Thomas loved to drive, and he was a fourth. So that's how we got the 4, and our logo is an IV.
Wow.
So
Okay.
that's how we came up with the foundation name. It took a while to come up with that. We designed the logo before we came up with the name.
Very cool.
So
Very, very cool.
yeah.
That's fantastic. All right. Well, Cindy, would you like to add anything else, or we're just about wrapped it?
I think we're about wrapped up. I really appreciate you, Lee, for having me on the show today, and just so blessed to call you friend.
Oh, absolutely. Me too.
And actually through Thomas is how we met.
That's
We moved in the neighborhood. He's like, "There's this cool gym. I met the couple, Lee and Amy Gravely. Y'all got to go meet them." I'm like, okay. So
Here we are.
thank you for having me on your show, and just enjoy helping others in big ways and small ways. So that's the gift the Lord has given to me now, and I'm just passing it on.
That sounds fantastic. Well,
Yeah.
Cindy, thank you so much. And tell Pete hello.
I will.
Anyway, all right. Well, stay tuned probably next week for another podcast from stageforlife.org. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you.